Those who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavang, it does. They need me.
Welcome to End of Dragons Daily 32, and I'm hoping that today's episode, you can probably tell from the timestamp, is a little more on the bite-sized size. I've spent a huge amount of today troubleshooting and trying to figure out PC issues. Hopefully some of the footage in the background is starting to look a little bit better for you guys. I wanted to say thank you again to everyone with the PC fund. It's been absolutely incredible. We've overshot the goal by a wide margin, and hopefully we'll be able to see some really fun stuff coming for that. We've got enough money that really I don't think I have to worry about the current short-term economy issues. And yeah, just remember that I am streaming in the mornings at the moment. You guys can find a link to that Twitch down below, and if you want to keep in the loop about any kind of news on that in the very short term, that's a great place to head over to. As for today's episode, well, of course, we're talking about End of Dragons, and the topic on the cards is how they would implement a new race. But specifically, I don't want to get bogged down in the idea and the flavor and the aesthetic of the race. I want to talk mechanics. I want to talk about how this can most benefit the game in terms of getting new people in that will grow the Guild Wars 2 community, but also, once you get those new people in, actually teaching them fundamental mechanics in a superior way to how Core Tyria did. Core Tyria has these big glaring omissions, the importance and relevance of condition cleanse and condition application and break bars, how there are the many ways we can drain them, the kind of effects that occur when break bars go down, why dodging is important, what different telegraphs look like, and so on and so on and so on. All of that's lacking, and I really believe that the biggest thing about adding the Tengu or the Lagos or whatever is in how the devs can rectify these issues. We've seen other MMOs do similar things. Like, for example, I remember doing a YouTube video long ago of retail WoW as a joke on April Fools, and I picked the Worgen to play. They put me in a whole new starter zone that was not anything like the starter zones I'd experienced in earlier years. And, you know, this was an opportunity for Blizzard to show mechanics at a different kind of pace. That's what I want to see ArenaNet do, assuming that this is a part of the expansion altogether. So let's jump in. I do have one other little comment right here at the start. Just something amazing on one of the miscellaneous topics yesterday, and I have to say it before I forget it. Kobansky here says, okay, I've got to admit, I've never thought of giving elite specializations new armor instead of weapons, and I kind of dig that idea. I want to be clear that I don't think you should give them armor instead of weapons. The problem there is, you know, giving someone a weapon gives them a lot of new combat capabilities and skills. There's a lot of meaning in that and power. If you're just giving them a new armor class, there's way less to be excited about. Like, way less, especially in Guild Wars. But, you know, in terms of creating a priest, as we mentioned, right. But class aesthetics and fitting archetypes aside, haven't you literally just made the strongest argument in favor of new classes? I agree, this is probably the last batch of elite specs we're ever gonna get. So, for every possible new expansion after End of Dragons, wouldn't it be easier to add 4 distinct specs for one new class instead of 9 for all the old ones? Not even touching how much less of a pain it would be to balance. Wow, I mean, you've shut me up good and proper here. I actually love this idea. I think that could really work. You know, I've been proposing that maybe over the End of Dragons era, we'll see a big shake-up to the way that traits and specializations work so that they don't continue doing elite specs, as surely they're running out by now. And by the way, I think we're going to get 9 with End of Dragons. We might get another 9 in a post-End of Dragons X-Pack. I can maybe see an argument for 18 more, all right? I can maybe see that. 2 X-Packs worth 18. But not 27, and not beyond. I mean, by this point, it really is getting silly. I do think we'll see a change. And maybe you're right. Maybe after End of Dragons, we get 9 elite specs here, and maybe in the expansion following, it's a new class that comes out of the gate with 3 elite specs to choose from. So what ArenaNet would have made there is 5 core specs, and some elite specs on top. That is actually still less work, in theory, than, you know, making all these separate elite specializations. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of marketing power there, and I think that people have made examples and cases for why a new class is feasible, even if it's not necessarily needed, because you can integrate all these ideas into the existing 9. Even if it's not necessary, it can be done. And maybe you're right. That's a really strong argument. Let's not forget that Heart of Thorns did do 9 elite specs and the whole rev. And look, the rev was pretty bare bones in a lot of ways due to its fundamental design and even stuff like its underwater weapon access. I think someone said that on support, it's still considered a beta class. There are definitely issues, but they did it. And this idea, they're doing less. One other thing before we jump into the Starzone discussion, check this out. I tried out the YouTube community tab thing. Guys, apparently lots of people use this. I didn't know, but the feature's kind of major. So I threw up a poll to you guys. 3,000 of you voted. Very nice to those of you who saw it. Apparently, it kind of throws these polls up quite evidently in front of people on mobile, so that's nice. And I just said, which expansion should Ender Dragons be more like? Heart of Thorns or Path of Fire? And try to be really all-encompassing when you make your decision. And this is an incredibly hard poll to vote in. A lot of you guys had comments saying this is too hard. A lot of you even said it's a bad poll. Look, it's not a bad poll. I deliberately didn't let you cop out. If I put an option C, a bit of both in there, everyone would have said a bit of both because obviously that's clear. I want to force you into a corner and really see where, when the coin flips, where you fall. And amazingly, actually, Heart of Thorns ended up getting more votes here. I think that's wrong. I think overall it is smarter to follow POF instead. But I guess it's underappreciated in many ways. I think as vets, maybe we're more interested in the replayability in endgame. Maybe the things that Heart of Thorns did right are the most important things to get right. So therefore, we kind of have this retrospective belief that it was better. But I really do think that generally, beat for beat, the quality is way up on POF. And I actually would be voting on POF myself there. I also find it interesting that the 55 to 45, that regression down towards POF, that actually kind of reflects the drop in user base between HOT buzz and Path of Fire buzz as of the Google Trends we looked at before. So I wonder whether, you know, when you get over a few thousand votes, all of a sudden we're just sort of showing the broader market idea. That many more people played Heart of Thorns enthusiastically than did POF, possibly? I don't know. I'm sure. How many of you guys watching this and watching my channel haven't played both? I mean, really? I'd love a comment about that. I'm sure you all have. I must be talking nonsense. Right, let's get over to the Starzone topic. The Sass Wagon says, I would definitely want a city for a new race. I'm worried about leveling zones though. If they allow Path of Fire mounts and no new mounts are added within the zone, new players will see vets zooming all over the map and events will move too fast or too slow for some people to keep up. I think this would divide new players from the existing community. If they do a new race, masteries should be reworked. At minimum, mounts and perhaps gliding should be locked until 80. It's not directly the topic, but let's be honest, it always boils down to masteries. Well, look, you're speaking to me. I'm inclined to want to agree with this. I don't think it always boils down to masteries, and yeah, I'm an advocate for the idea of them being locked before 80. I do want to propose something else, though. This is ArenaNet, and in a very real way, I can imagine it being that you beat your first heart, and they unlock a raptor for you at level 3 on the new race. I can imagine ArenaNet doing that. Rather than locking them pre-80, they're so scared of what the community might think of that, they'll do it this other way and just give everyone the raptor super soon. And, you know, there is some marketing worth to that, because now it's like, oh yeah, pick the new race, because you get a mount really quickly. I mean, then that makes the new race sort of the de facto efficient thing to do. You're driving more expansion sales and stuff. I don't like stuff like that personally, but you might see it. There's some other things in this comment that I kind of want to dig into. I would definitely want a new city. Well, you know, we've had discussions on the channel before. I don't know whether a city is really needed. And if we're talking about Tengu being added up in Corteria, and they kind of integrate with the Pact story, and the idea is you're playing a Tengu before the Zaitan campaign and all of that stuff. If that's our view for the new race, and they're starting in the Dominion of Winds, you actually don't have too much space. You've got like the Delesio Seaboard area and the Dominion of Winds itself. That's about it. So I would kind of rather no city or something very minor as a city, just a portion of a map, and the rest of it is all dedicated to leveling. Like I would want a full Queensdale equivalent and a full Kessex equivalent for the Tengu. I mean, even the Silvari and Asura have to share their second map, Brisbane, but I would like the Tengu to have both, if that's what we're talking about. And I would actually be happy for the city to just be a section of the map. I don't think it's that. It's weird that I'm now saying this. I never would have imagined it, but I don't think it's that important anymore that they keep adding kind of new cities. Like, I look at how Amnoon felt with POF. It kind of did what it needed to be a new city. But was it like this big transformative thing in the end? Like, I'm happy that they did it the way they did it in the expansion. It doesn't have to be much more. So, you know, I really wouldn't mind if only a bit of that map is a city designated area, a safe area. The rest of it is fully explorable. That way we get the most real estate value as we possibly can, right? Otherwise it's a bit cramped. And here's the other thing though. So many of you guys make this comment. You're all or a lot of you are thinking of the Tengu being added up top. And you're all thinking of this being a pact commander that ends up doing, you know, the orders and goes to Lion's Arch and all those things. I actually think a more realistic proposition is that if you play a Tengu, you start in Cantha, in a totally distant area, and you start in the modern era of the game. You start in the current storyline, locally fighting against the Deep Sea Dragon or against the Ministry of Purity or whatever's going on. I think that's more realistic because of the voice acting issue. If you have the Tengu integrate into Lion's Arch and so on, well, now you've got a problem where, yeah, I can imagine them doing like 20 levels of story or 30 levels of story so that then all of a sudden you just follow the orders and you filter in. And that seems to make sense, but then you have a problem like, how does your character sound? Are they going to go back and do Tengu voice acting for every single instance in the matrix of the personal story? I doubt it. I especially doubt they'll do that for Living World. You're not going to have it, right? If you play Living World on a Tengu, I'm pretty sure you'll be mute. Or they might, I mean, they wouldn't do the Microsoft Sound thing, right? They'll find a way to have you be mute. That's a very real question, like a quality way of delivering that. Maybe some kind of warning when you choose to replay those old instances. But the personal story as well, I'm not buying it, really. To the personal story's credit and stuff, it is already very careful about being specific on your race. Because obviously already the commander could be any one of a pool of 5 races. So the Tengu could slip on by seamlessly like that. But I think it's easier to just bung them in on the newest stuff all the way along here and have them be mute for Living World. The advantage here is they can add as much real estate as they damn well please. They could go full Guild Wars 1 style if they like, where they're, you know, really dedicating a lot of new territory to re-leveling in the old campaign format. Lastly, I do just want to echo what you say about players feeling divided and split apart. You don't want the people with the masteries to feel too power crept over existing people that don't. And that's going to be a problem almost in any scenario. Even if they don't add a new race or a new leveling opportunity with this expansion, even if they completely say, no, that is not a part of End of Dragons, and we may well live in that world, everyone. If they do that, you're still going to have new people coming with this X-Pack. And they're still going to be, you know, feeling left behind and weirdly compelled to play Path of Fire to get those mounts before they come to End of Dragons, which won't likely have all of them. It's going to be a weird time. And this sometimes gets really acute as an issue. Like, look at the Silver Wastes. Remember, right around Path of Fire's launch, how weird the Silver Wastes were for people grinding it? Because the people who had the mounts could get around and tag a lot more, and some people were kind of just left wandering. Low Giddy says, what if the new starting area was like Presearing Ascalon from Guild Wars 1, where it uses the same terrain of existing and new maps, but then once you complete the story, you're fast-forwarded to the current story where plots merge. This way, devs can get 2 times usage from the same maps with only minor work or changes. Think of how they handle DRMs. The point of pre-searing type area would be to have new players learn important game mechanics and power level to 80 without affecting the current story. Then jump into the story and have all the info and equipment, rare exotic, needed to tackle the End of Dragons threat or story. I think this is a brilliant idea. I think this is inspired, and I can definitely see the devs doing this kind of thing. I'm also just excited about the idea of a Presearing-esque experience in Guild Wars 2. For those that don't know what we're talking about, in the original game, the tutorial area was so big that it was multiple areas, and you could spend 10, 20, 30 hours in it, unlocking skills, doing various quests, visiting faraway locations, before finally you leave the tutorial and you go through a 2-year time jump and you visit the real game. And because ArenaNet made it so expansive, it was like a game within the game. Like, it had its own economy, its own communities, its own feel. And in some ways, I actually think the pre-searing gameplay was some of the best that Guild Wars 1 ever offered, really. And that's due to the party size, but we're kind of getting off topic here. Guild Wars 2 kind of did this in the game already. You can stick about at the Assault on Shaymore forever, if you really want. But in a lot of ways, the economy is now integrated because of shared inventory slots and so on and so on and so on. And obviously, it doesn't have the same meat. It doesn't have the same feel. So yeah, I'd love to see this with a kind of Tengu experience. It wouldn't be exactly the same as what you felt with Guild Wars 1. Again, because of shared inventory slots and the way the TP works and all those kinds of things. But I would like to see this. And you've brought something else to mind as well. The thought of what the new tutorial boss would be. And again, I think this would be a great opportunity to teach people various things about the game. I also love this efficiency idea. Yeah, if they could do this, put it up in Corteria, and you've got the Delesio Seaboard map, and you've got the city/opening explorable map within the Dominion of Winds. You have those for low-level stuff, and then we time jump forwards, and we get them again, except as level 80 maps. And they can just be, like, looking a little bit different. They can go pretty far with it. I mean, Dragon Response missions have proved that. You could take the same area and have it look substantially different. An interesting idea on the Lion Guard here. I always figured the easiest way would be a Lion Guard origin for all new races who are outliers of their racial factions and civilizations. That could be the Tengu, the Lagos, the Kodan, etc. And end up joining the Lion Guard. From there, they're dispatched to various core starting zones for their personal story until they merge into the Pact storyline with everyone else. That would be the most straightforward way, in my opinion, beyond excluding new races from previous content. Perhaps all new races share a male or female VA to simplify further. In the end, integrating a new race completely, even in this way, is an incredible amount of work through core, living seasons, and 3 expansions. Look, a lot of you guys in the comments kind of agreed with this. You thought this really worked out. I simply don't. I think that they'll forever be very careful about how many new races they add. I doubt you'll get more than 1 or 2 ever, really. And maybe, you know, if we're talking decades down the line, Guild Wars 2 still getting updates, anything's on the table at that point. But for realistic, implementable stuff nowadays, I don't think you'll get many. And reusing the same voice actor, so my Tengu sounds like a Lagos, sounds like a Quaggan or a Grawl if they ever had the lesser races and stuff. I'm just not buying it. And I don't really... as cool as it would be to have a Lion Guard origin, right? As just an idea on its own, the idea I can have a Lion Guard origin is cool. The idea I can start in Lion's Arch is badass. And that means you don't need to build a new city and all kinds of brilliant things. But the idea that we have to do it that way, no, I kind of stand by this other idea that the most simple thing to execute is a new area and the current story and the characters plopped in right now, here, right now. That's about it. I really don't think you're going to see them going back and voicing the commander for, I mean, I can't even count how many Living World episodes right now. What about 2 expansions down the line? They're going to do that all again? It's not going to happen, guys, really. And that's fine. That's the main point I want to make. We make so many assumptions about what a new race must include. Is it really bad if the new race isn't voiced in Lake Doric when I go back there? No, come on. That's an acceptable thing I would have cut away. Aaron McGee says, hero challenges don't need to be combat sponges. Use those to teach people special mechanics. If the only way to beat the challenge is to dodge, people will dodge. If the only way to win is to break the bar, then people will learn which of their skills are for CC. During the challenge, the UI highlighting skills with CC would go a long way as well. Brilliant comment. Oh, I could kiss you. This is exactly what the game needs. I've seen a lot of people talking about what they think a tutorial is for the game, like teaching people to dodge and stuff, and it's inadequate. The way you teach people this stuff is not to list the facts. Listing the facts won't go that far. Many players who currently don't know much about break bars or don't try with break bars and dodging likewise, they've had the facts listed to them before. It's that they were never imprinted on the actual activity of doing it. They were never like encouraged and incentivized to do it over and over and over again. That's why when I talk about the personal story being bad at this stuff, I talk about it like as a top to bottom issue, because there's no point teaching someone how to dodge and making it necessary to dodge for the first boss fight, and then you're going to spend the next 60 hours with it never mattering. You're going to develop bad habits, and in those early formative moments, that's when it's most important you get the right ones. So hero challenges, I think, are the right way to do it. And do you know what? I'll go one further. I think ArenaNet always has known this as well. I think the only reason that hero challenges are crap and generally just HP sponges is because of launch crunch, and 2012 was such a broad thing with so many things going on, they couldn't really go back and do a proper pass on all of the hero challenges to make them actual challenges and have people learn about the game. And how do I think this? Why do I think that they know that? Look at like one of the first hero challenges you come across in the entire game for like the default vanilla experience, which is Queensdale. We know that they were focusing on Queensdale first. We know that the majority of people play humans. Queensdale was really where it was at. Think about where is one of the first hero challenges. One of them. It's the Windmill King at the script. And what does that teach you about? It teaches you about dodging away from his relentless CCs, and it teaches you about picking up environmental objects, which you're meant to be able to throw back at him in some kind of useful manner. Of course, the environmental objects weren't balanced properly, and it's easy to kill the Script King, the Windmill King anyway. But the idea of that hero challenge teaching you something about the game is clearly laid out. It's a brilliant concept, and I think that a 2021 team can take their time now and actually layer this stuff out properly. Hero challenges are an excellent place to go to, and I would very much look forward to seeing what ArenaNet do on this one. I love this. And then, of course, the personal story too, and having mission critical bosses you've got to get through. Again, like, you have to do these mechanics. You have to break the break bar, and so on. And again, some people say with the break bar tutorialization, like giving people weapons so that it's on their build. No, I don't agree with that. I think that people shouldn't be given weapons. They shouldn't be given special actions. They should see a break bar, and if they can't break it with their current build, then they need to look at utility skills they have available to them. They need to look at other weapons that they have available to them. They need to look at traits that they have available to them, because that's the game. In the real game, you don't just get a get out of jail free card all the time. Or, I mean, you shouldn't. It does sort of seem like they design it that way now. But that robs the spirit, that robs the system of what it's supposed to be doing, doesn't it, to a certain extent? So yeah, I think it should just be, alright, learn the different ways you can break this break bar. Do you want to do it through mixes of cripple and chill and fear all at once? Or do you want to do it through hard CCs? Or, you know, whatever. Let the people learn by giving them things to overcome. Don't make it obnoxiously difficult and obscure, but let them properly learn under the real conditions of the game. And in that way, I think we'll have a new breed of really enthusiastic, keyed in new Guild Wars 2 players. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember the next episode is up on Patreon. If you supported with this PC drive, or you're about to by hitting the link in the description, please remember Patreon is really the main place. And if you want some perks in exchange for your generosity, it is the main place I would always encourage you to go. Thanks, everyone. Keep giving me your thoughts on this discussion. There's still so much to get to. Let's keep talking about the idea of a new race, how viable it is, feasible, and I'll see you on the next one.